Welcome to Lao Shi Lawrence McElroy here for Water Tiger School Taiji Chuan. We're back in the Qigong part of our rotation between things Qigong and things Tai Chi, and every once in a while something in physical training and exercise. We do this on a regular basis. This is another one that will return to our sort of strength and diversity, variety is the spice of Tai Chi and Qigong series, and we'll address a single piece and different approaches to it from the standing 8 piece of brocade. When we get to that part of it, the Ba Dua Jin, what's considered, we understand, is the most popular Qigong set in not only the West, but also the East. Not set, set, sorry. But first, before we talk about the warm-up or anything else, here's the t-shirt of the day, of the video. This is one of the, at least 2 or 3 that are a white imprint with a black print, but this was the first one in the series that was black, and that was for 2010, World Tai Chi Day in 2010. The last time we wore it was all the way back in December of 2020. It's part of the Water Tiger for Sachem series that in the Water Tiger for Sachem new playlist. And that particular video, there was a warm-up, and the main part of the video focused on Qigong hand exercises, so a different way of addressing the opening and closing of hands. So there you go. There's the t-shirt, and our focus, as I mentioned, will be something from the 8 piece of brocade, but our warm-up will be a return, as we have been doing for a while, of something from Shibashi. The family of exercises of Qigong that were created by Lin Hao Sheng. This is from the first set that was created in 1979. He has put together 8 sets by 1990. The first set is the most popular of all of them. The first 3 sets are done more often than any of the other 8. And a little side note we always like to make that almost everybody we run across pronounces the name of the art as Shibashi. But apparently, the proper pronunciation is something closer to Shibashi. And translations vary as well. Some people say it's 18, it translates as 18 movements. Other people say just 18. What's to say? And most people do this set just because it feels good to do it. There are a lot of different therapeutic qualities for the different pieces. But generally, it's just a good approach for overall wellness, and it just makes you feel good. All of the pieces, and I think this particular exercise does an exemplary job of that. And this is the 15th exercise, I think probably in most sets, if not all of them. And for us, it's called Flying Wild Goose. For others, it might be flying like a goose, or flying like a wild goose. And for others, it might be flying like Wild Goose with the removed. Most of the pieces have a big long set of health benefits. This one has a relatively short one, but I'll still be reading it because I don't really have them all committed to memory. Stimulates the lungs, promotes and helps lift depression. I actually think they all sort of help lift depression because, again, makes you feel good to do this set, and relieves anxiety and headaches. The last one's probably important for some people. Strengthens the kidneys, the knees, and the legs, and helps balance and improve blood pressure. That particular therapeutic quality seems to run through almost all of the 18 different movements. Strengthens the heart and lungs, and opens and expands the qi in the chest. Let me finish my mint, since we're to that point in the video. My feet are going to be at about shoulder width. And again, parallel. Almost all the pieces, actually all the pieces, have some version that will have the knees opening a little bit and then straightening. Have this kind of Oompa-Loompa thing. And in this particular piece, there's a little pause. Sometimes it's consistent, it just goes. And there's not really a stop. You get to some part of the movement as you're moving down, and then immediately you move up. This one has a little pause because it creates a flick of the wrist. We made sure when we set up the camera angle for today's video, that we had a full shot up, so you could see hands both down and up. Notice the little flick, kind of the wingtip swing. Right? You have the wingtip swing down and the wingtip swing up. Ideally, an inhalation on the way up and an exhalation on the way down. And yes, I'm doing the exercise now. Shoulders stay dropped. They're conduits, not instigators of the hands rising. Chest stays sunk, back stays rounded. Nice, even breaths. I don't hold the breath with that pause. And actually continue the exhalation until now, inhalation. I suppose I should say this is one of my favorites, but it kind of seems like almost every one we've presented thus far has that designation. Can I say I'm really glad Shibashi entered and was placed in the Water Tiger School catalog. Just a few more. Same thing with the inhalation. I'm not holding breath. I'm still inhaling until the change of direction. We'll make this the end. So we'll go down, swing like we're coming up, and have the fingertips forward and the palms down. Just enough activation in the wrists so the palms are downward. They don't have to be parallel to the earth. You don't have to tweak your wrists. Now Shibashi has its own unique closing, or as far as I know, unique closing. But we're going to do the standard sort of Water Tiger School closing. Going to settle the weight into the right leg. Left leg is the one that's going to give the weight up. As the hands float up, out, away from the body, settling, sitting down into that right foot. Hands come in, left foot comes in. Hands down, heel down. Knee pop is optional. And a little rebound brings the hands back into the belly. Not sure if the mic picked up the knee pop or not, but it's usually there. So there you go. Flying Wild Goose from the first set of Shibashi. So, talking about firsts, that's the piece of brocade upon which we're going to focus. I think almost universally, some of the others we've discovered, people present in different orders. But in the research that we've been doing, it's limited though it may be, everyone had this piece first. Different names. Ours is double hands hold up the heavens. There's palms raised to the heaven. Two hands support the heavens. Two hands hold up the heavens to regulate the internal organs, and pressing up the heavens. And that's, again, just a sampling of the different names. We're actually doing one example that doesn't bother naming them. That's a standard convention for some. This is the first piece of brocade. This is the second piece of brocade. This is the third piece of brocade, etc. For our lineage, we hold, or others probably do as well, that it was Marshal Yehefe in the Song Dynasty around AD 1100. If you haven't already noticed, my Chinese sucks. Sorry. And initially, Marshal Fei supposedly created 12 pieces of brocade, both in the standing set and the sitting set. And over time, it was honed down to 8. But of course, there are other opinions out there as well. Now, even though we place a great deal of emphasis on the poetry is something that I don't commit to memory. We tend to press our students to spend time with the poetry, to kind of interpret it as they will, to contemplate it, to make it a part of their practice. But memorization isn't something that we require. And I only have so much brain space, and I don't do the thing that Dumbledore does, where pulling out thoughts and getting rid of them. So I'm going to read this, mostly. Double hands hold up the heavens and to regulate the Sangyo. Sangyo passes chi freely and smoothly. Illnesses disappear. Reverse hands to face the sky. Raise the arms. Thrust the chest. Straighten the waist and swing. Stand upright and be firm. Practice long. The body strengthens. Happiness is cultivated. So there will come a time in our approach where we're going to settle the weight into the balls of the feet. Now we do other things when we settle the weight into the balls of the feet, and we make sure that we open the knees and adjust the hips and the ankles enough that we don't create any rise in the body. Here, we want a little bit of a rise. Not a lot, because that becomes too challenging, right? But enough to sort of instigate a little bit more commitment of the legs to the holding yourself in place. That helps to stimulate the chi in the lower body as you're doing the rest of the piece. The other thing is when the hands are in this position for us, a couple of things. One, we're rounded. We're almost within our examples today, the only ones who do that. Most people have the straight arms. But I also want to point out that the hands are interlocked and above the Bakwei point, the 100 convergences at the crown point of the head, not in the front plane of the body. If you can't get your hands into that position, then what you want to do is imagine somebody's there holding them out of whack, and you are pressing back to get them in whack, if you will. So in other words, there's an isometric press back at your range of motion if you can't be here. Feet for us are inside of shoulder width. Now we describe this a couple of different ways. We either simply suggest about hip width or say a comfortable amount, not too close together, but definitely not shoulder wide. With the feet closer together, you create a certain compression in the hips, the abdominals, the low back. So you get a little bit different compression and release of the muscles as you move through this piece and other pieces brocade in Water Tiger School's approach to the standing 8. Knees are open throughout. Breathe when you have to. Since we do little holds at different points in our approach, we don't match the breath to the movement as most others do, not everybody. But we talk about the chi compressing, that was the wrong gesture for compression, compressing and expanding instead of where you're breathing. So maybe you can get your breath into that pattern, and if that's fine, do that. If not, breathe when you have to, but keep in mind when the chi is compressing back into the Shia Dantian, not the acupuncture point, but the actual Shia Dantian that sits in the cup of the hips and expands out from that esoteric vessel. We'll talk about those times. We start with a focus on the Shung Dantian, the upper field elixir, not the acupuncture point at the third eye from other energy modalities, but the actual Shung Dantian, which is near the pineal gland, right? And it's not the pituitary, it's the pineal, in the center of the brain. That's considered, as the upper field of elixir, the vessel that holds our spirit of vitality. And the way we kind of look at that or translate that or interpret that is the energy with which we approach our day, every day, and our lives. This exercise, regardless of the approach, stimulates the Sangyo, the triple burner, helps to regulate it, balancing the triple burner, relieves stiffness in the shoulders, and improves blood circulation. So, settling in, knees open now and throughout. interlocking the fingers. Now notice the arms are open, the elbows are open. I'm not straight here either. And what I'm going to do is take a moment to visualize and feel the compression of qi to my Xia Dantian, and then start a long expansion of qi. Notice the arms are staying in that same configuration. And at about chest level, as the hands pass that, I start to settle the weight into the balls of my feet. Still expanding, breathing as I must, but still expanding. And then a compression, settling ball, instep, heel, not rocking back on the heels, equally dividing the weight. And then another expansion as I arc to the left. And notice, I'm not doing this. I'm seeking to keep the hands in the same configuration over my head. And then a compression as I rise up slowly. And an expansion to the other side. And then that preps us for a long compression. And as we go down, the hands drop differently than they went up. The elbows do fold, and we lower in the front plane of the torso. And then another expansion after that long compression for round 2. And as you redistribute the weight, ball even with the instep, even with the heel, as a compression and an expansion. You might remember from the poetry that it suggested strengthen the waist and swing. We're assuming that's why this became part of the movements from our source material. Again, that was a long compression. This is a long extension, expansion. And our last repetition, we're going to hold most of these to 3. And a compression. And an expansion. And a compression. And an expansion. Notice too, I'm not twisting into this. My torso stays right straight front. And the long compression. As that was our last repetition, the fingertips, the fingers separate, left to the left, right to the right. Palms down-ish, same as before, don't overflex the wrists. And my feet are closer together than they were at the end of the Shibashi piece, so just be aware of that. It changes the body dynamic as you settle the weight through the right leg and bring in the left. And that's the Water Tiger School version. Double hands hold up the heavens. Next, and by the way, if this is your first time watching a Water Tiger School video, I can't explain that. It's just something I do when I finish something. It could very well be that Mesmer Sifu at Black Dragon School, where I had my initial training, did that and I started to mimic him. It also just kind of feels good to kind of have that sharp contact with the Yang Quan, the bubbling well cavity on the right foot. I got nothing. So our second version is probably the softest of any of them. And it is called Palms Raised to Heaven. It too is done shoulder wide, like most approaches here. I'm going to get another drink because, again, if you've spent time with me, I'm a thirsty guy. I like my decaffeinated green tea. So this does have a breath pattern because there's not really hold. The knees stay open throughout. Again, no raise on the balls of the feet. No right directly overhead. I'm going to interlock the fingers. Find an exhalation. And inhale the hands up. And on my eyes stay forward here. Straighten the arms. And then exhale. And down and right straight out to the sides. Almost a forward orientation. And then inhale and up. And exhale. And then inhale and up. And an exhale. And since that was the third one, left to the left, right to the right. Find your right leg, vertical alignment, crown point of the head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot. As you're up and out, in, brings in that foot, down. Knee pop is optional. See, I told you, it happens almost every time. Hands to the acupuncture point for the Xia Dantian. There's number 2. Number 3, 2 hands support the heavens. Again, shoulder wide. The knees stay open throughout. There's no real rise and sink, as there can be in some of these approaches. There's a thing that I hope I remember to do, because I have a tendency when I'm preparing these to, as the hands come down, if I'm looking up, if I'm doing a piece that is looking up, I bring my chin back to front and bring my face full forward as the arms descend. This is one of more than one that has a different pattern to that. So I'm going to start just a little, almost like I'm starting to fly like a goose. And then the arms swing in. Notice I'm leading with the palms. The hands are not interlocked. As I get to about the forehead, the hands interlock. My arms continue to straighten, and I'm looking up at the hands or beyond the hands, and my arms are straight. And now I'm going to lower my head, my chin, my face, and then release. And I'm going to come down to the sides. And then I'm going to rise up the arms, not out of my lower body. Interlock the fingers around the forehead. Lowering the chin. And exhale down. By the way, that's the breath pattern. Ideally, it's an inhalation up. Sorry, third repetition. And I'm finally telling you when to breathe. It's been a day, folks. Lowering the chin. We'll do one more repetition since McElroy Lashi screwed up. If you're anything like me, you're kind of accustomed to days that you have planned. You know how they're going to unfold, and that changes almost as soon as you roll out of the rack. And down. Oops, sorry, chin first. And exhale. Let's do one more since I forgot to lower the chin in the correct place. Inhalation up. Interlocking the fingers at around the forehead. Chin down. Exhale. I'm going to keep the left on the left, the right on the right. Finding the right foot. Aligning the body into the right foot as the hands float up. Bringing in the left foot as the hands float in. Pressing the heel down, redividing the weight. And boom. Number 3. Number 4, 2 hands hold up the heavens to regulate the internal organs. This one starts in a lower stance. Again, it's an inhale up and exhale down. It's another one that has you in this position, dropping the chin, and then exhaling as you sink down. And the sink down position is almost, if you're familiar with the 5-position Zhangzhuan, that sort of starting place is kind of like, for some people, not everybody, holding the belly. Right? So I'm going to find an exhalation. I'm going to inhale up, they interlock faster. Chin down, exhale, and sink down. Inhale. And notice here in the sink down, I'm not really looking down. Chin down, exhale. Then my eyes here are forward. Inhale. Chin down, exhale. Since we did more the last time, inhale. We'll do one more here too. And exhale. We'll go ahead and come back to the hold the belly position, but then to stand up with the left on the left, right on the right, palms down-ish, and bring the left foot into the right. Two, three, four. So number 5 is one that would just refer to this as the first piece of brocade. It is similar to what we just did, but also a little bit different because I do start lower, but I'm actually going to be collapsed down here. And ideally, turn sideways so you can see, the hands are sort of cupped almost at the knees. So it's different than holding the belly, but it's also similar because it's almost the same position, except I'm down here. The end is the same, and again, there is a look forward before the arms lower. So I'm going to start more or less shoulder width. Breath pattern is pretty much what it has been. An inhalation up, an exhalation down. So find an exhalation. Round the spine. Spine is actually sort of rounded here. I'm not doing a straight and strong spine like we do in some things, but rounding the spine as I come down. Exhale. Inhale. Look forward. Exhale. About the time the hands are here, and start that roll. Inhale. Again, it's a relatively early interlocking of the fingers compared to others. Well, this third one anyway. And exhale. I am adding a beat at the top just out of habit. Inhale. Exhale, and as we have been, they didn't do very well on the first piece. We're going to add one more. I'm going to do what I did with the previous. In that sink, I'm going to go down to that rolled spine, hands cupped position, and then stand up. And do my close. And that's, friends, number 5. One more. This is the one that only has one repetition and a long hold. Warning, 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 Will Robinson, danger, danger. Look it up. Red alert. You can look that one up too. In this particular approach,
that's where the head's going to be.
so that may not be possible for some folks
To have that face more or less parallel to the ceiling.
I mean, I suppose a variation, you could also sort of think about what I talked about in our version with that isometric, that you get to where your range of motion is and then do an isometric press down with the skull. But since this isn't my approach, I can't really suggest that. So anyway, feet are again shoulder wide. In this one, the hands do not interlock. And there's a little cleansing at the end of this as well. There should have been one in the third version as well, but I forgot it. So I'll go back and show you what that is. So the knees are open, not too open. I am going to straighten a little bit as I do this. Breathe when you have to because of the holds. I'm going to begin the movement, and it's almost like drawing earth energy, and that ties back to the cleansing at the end. As the hands start to move by the face, I'm going to start that head drop back.
I'm going to start with fingertips back and then turn the fingertips in. Now I'm pressing. This is pressing up the heavens, I think is the name, if I remember right. Still holding. I know if you're in this position, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm still holding. Now I'm not lowering my head yet, but I'm turning my fingertips up and my hands palm to palm. Still shoulder wide, left on the left, right on the right. I'm going to lower my head. So now my face is forward. And now my hands are going to come down. And my cleansing is like the movement began. It's sort of a drawing the earth energy movement, and some other arts and some other sets, and then down. And then left to the left and right to the right. And again, we'll do our standard water tiger school closing. So it was pressing up the heavens, that is the name according to my cue card. And I mentioned, when I happened to remember this one has a cleansing, that the third version that we did, that was two hands support the heavens, that's the one that sort of had that moment that I referred to as almost like we're starting to fly the wild goose, that the hands interlock as you get to in front of the torso. And the exhalation. You look down first, sorry. You look down first, exhalation. We'll do another repetition since, once again, I forgot to look down. Interlock it around the forehead. Look down first. A third repetition. Well, at least this video will be longer than some of the others. Inhalation, interlock the fingers at the forehead. Chin down, look. Exhalation. And the cleansing here, I would refer to it as a subtle pour chi. If you know water tiger and pour chi through the back way in our breathing set. Except by subtle, I mean we're not going over the height of the head. And it's just one repetition. And that would have been what, or should have been what I did at the end of that third version earlier on in the video. So there you go. 6 different ways. Hey, I actually held up the right number of digits. I seldom do that on a regular basis. Of what's normally the first piece of brocade, with the different names, that sort of thing, with a little bit of Wild Goose to start with. So ideally, perfect world, we'll be back in about 3 weeks with a Tai Chi focus. As always, I want to take this time to thank you for your time and attention. Hopefully you found this, at least interesting in some way. I really come to enjoy these, sort of the diversity in what it is we do. Different perspectives. We actually have a series of things that we do at Water Tiger School that we put under that category, different perspectives, that we compare and contrast the way that we do things with the way that other people do things. And that can go really 2 ways. It's like, oh, this is why we do it our way. Their way makes sense, but it's just our way. It just feels right for us. Or 2, maybe I should change the way I'm doing this, right? So you strengthen your perspective on your own thing, or challenge your perspective on your own thing when you experience the diversity that's out there. We actually have things that have changed in our traditional long form because of such a thing. From a lot of different sources, some of them kind of odd, but anyway. So there you go. The other thing that I want to mention, we usually click flip the switch, fill the box, whatever, on YouTube when we set up this video on the channel, that we hold all comments. It doesn't seem to work very well. And it's not because we really want to preview the comments. We just want to make sure that we don't get spam, because when we first started this, we didn't do that. And let's just say that a lot of suggestions as to how to get a hot date ended up in our YouTube feed, as the comments section. And it has at least stopped that. But if you flame us, it's not going to go over too well on this side. But if you have constructive criticism, if there's something that you'd like to see us address, we started this during the pandemic and home lockdown, and that's sort of the approach we have continued to do. It's very casual, it's very instructional, it's still workshoppy, but that's what we do. That's just our focus. That's how this medium works for us. We're not trying to get clicks. We're just doing our best to show some people something. And we will post a link to this on our Facebook page. That's a little bit more free range when it comes to comments, but sort of the same thing. If it goes beyond constructive criticism, you're not going to be able to access our page for long. So again, thanks for your time and attention. We'll catch you, you'll catch us next time. Something Tai Chi. There are a few different things in the queue, so I'm not really sure at this point what it might be, and it may even be something that's not currently in the queue. So there you go. Ta.